Another Thursday, another fantastic race on the horizon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another round of the iRacing GT3 Thursdays Season 3 here on America's Racing League. We are at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca this week, and it is going to be fantastic. The fog might be down, it might be a little gray and gloomy, but our race cars are revving and roaring and ripping around. My name is Jack Mays. Joining me tonight will be none other than Mr. Jesse Lee. Jesse, we're a bit into qualifying already. A different format, as everybody who was driving learned last week. Now the viewers are learning this week. Normal 10-minute qualifying, no minimum laps. Everybody, as you can see, sharing the same circuit. A little bit of work, what it cut out for them, but it is tight at the top of the field.
It certainly is, Jack. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fogged in Monterey, California, in wine country. Of course, Laguna Seca, and a lot of people mistake this place for a desert. It is not. It's anything but. It's just dry brown grass. We promise you, Laguna Seca is a racetrack that doesn't really need any sort of introduction. Of course, not the oldest racetrack in the world. I think it opened up sometime in the late 50s, so it's nearly 70 years old, but it's been revised several times. Still has all of the character that the original track had, including the world-famous corkscrew. It's not a track that you look at and you take very lightly. It is, however, a very quick lap, and it does lend itself, Jack, to qualifying being incredibly close. Piotr Shabilski, the quickest of all, just going to the top of the board with a 20.556.
Absolutely. Apologies, viewers. I was desperately trying to get the overlays to play ball. Fortunately, they're here just in time for us to figure out what all is going down. The Polish driver, Piotr Shabilski, a man who was very quick last season, is on pole at the moment. Adrian Puebla following them right up on provisional front row. Paul O'Malley, last season's champion, in third. Michael Hickman fourth, and the driver we've been rolling around with for a little while. Last week's winner at Long Beach, Paige Duganbaugh, and it's tight. It's absolutely immense. The top 7-8 cars-ish separated by about a second. Top 5 less than half of that. It's a few more moments remaining. I think everybody kind of tripping over each other a little bit, Jesse, but once they find their way on a bit of circuit, they are moving along. Ted Piper, Stefano Zanatti just jumping up to 6th and 7th position respectively. Of course, our 3 classes of cars all sharing the same circuit, all qualifying for equal spots on the circuit. Lots of quick Pro-Am drivers, of course. Lots of quick drivers in general. It's going to be a heck of a night. 1 hour once qualifying concludes, Jesse. And, I mean, I'd say it's a bit early to make pre-race predictions, but it's never too early to say such things. What's your word of the day going to be? Is it going to be chaos like it usually is?
Well, after Long Beach, I think chaos is going to be the name of the game. I think you're going to see a lot of that today. But actually, Jack, my word of the day is patience. Every driver is going to have to race the racetrack. One of the things that you can kind of get bogged down with here at Laguna Seca is trying to race each other. That is not the name of the game. This is a highly technical and fast circuit for a lot of it. You need to race the racetrack because Laguna Seca bites back, and it's going to bite back really hard. You got to pay attention. Just 2.25 miles around, 11 turns, quite unassuming, but it is a racetrack that does not play fair. And the second that you get comfortable, well, that's the moment that it is going to bite. Shabilski still at the top of the board. Puebla P2, some 1.5 tenths off the overall pace. Paul O'Malley in third, Hickman fourth, Wyatt Johnson the current top 5, as several drivers trying to go quicker have not been able to. We just saw Javi Sanabria end their qualifying run as time expires. All flying laps have counted. And I am happy to report, Jack, looking at qualifying, despite this being a live session and no longer private qualifying, it looks like everyone, even on this tight circuit, has been able to afford themselves space.
Yeah, just about everybody sort of, it looked as if they were tripping over each other, but I think they were in a reasonable amount of control, sort of maybe thinking, pro driver behind me, I'll let them through. I'll slot in between maybe an AM and a pro and sort of figure their way around the circuit. So well done for everybody. I think the wellest done job is to the man who I think is going to be on pole confirmed. Piotr Shabilski coming out, do it again. An excellent qualifier, an excellent driver in race pace. Adrian Puebla is going to join them on row number 1. Paul O'Malley third. Michael Hickman is in 4th. Wyatt Johnson is in 5th. Paige Duganbaugh is in 6th. Anne-Marie De Pasquale back this week after some PC issues took away their race last week, is starting in 7th. Ted Piper 8th. Daniel Kent 9th. Stefano Zanatti inside the top 10. Javi Sanabria in 11th place. McClafferty in 12th. That is your amateur pole sitter in class. David Barkley 13th. Sean Stewart in 14th. Sam Graff 15th. Benjamin Gallego in 16th. David Wiggins 17th. Barry Cochrane 18th. Scott Farrell in 19th. And Anthony Bedonia, your top 20. There's a whole heck of a lot of names, Jesse Lee. 32 drivers, so many that I can't quite fit them all on the screen. That is, I mean, that's a flex and a half on behalf of this grid. A really, really strong showing in the first 2 rounds, which is going to lead to some really, really strong racing. A grid as big as this, sort of differential in pace, means that chaos could be around the corner. Working your way around traffic is going to be a bit of a to-do once we get later on into the race. But we've seen these guys run week after week, and I put my full faith in them. If I was suiting up and racing with them this week, I would have not a worry in the world that everything was going to be, well, relatively okay. It is a racetrack after all.
Well, this is America's Racing League, and they're showing up and showing out. And if there's one thing that I've learned in my short time here, is that they are going to race each other hard, but more than likely it's going to be a fun and fair race. A couple of other differences. We talked about the difference in qualifying, it no longer being a sort of a few lap private quali. It is a 10-minute live session with everybody. You can also see the other difference, the 3 different categories: Pro, Pro-Am, and Am. Those categories all fighting for top honors respectively, and overall, of course. And we'll keep an eye on that throughout the entire season. Of course, Piotr Shabilski, the quickest in Pro, but behind them a few rows is Wyatt Johnson, the quickest of the Pro-Am drivers. Ted Piper and Daniel Kent, second and third in that category. And then you've got Bryce McClafferty, who is by far and away the best AM driver, qualifying 12th. The next AM down in 17th. David Wiggins with Barry Cochran right behind them. Anybody that may be new to racing, multi-class racing, or multi-class racing like this, you may wonder, is that fair? Is that normal? And the answer is yes. There are instances in real motorsport where AM drivers do win overall. There are courses for horses after all.
Absolutely, and it's not necessarily a strategic boon, but it is, well, it actually ends up being, because the more cars you can have outside of your class between you and someone else that you might be racing, just sort of means a bit safer, a bit easier, less likely that they're going to be able to get by you, and if they do, they're going to really, really have to work for it. The fog has stayed for the race session. Porsche safety car pulling in now, which means Piotr Shabilski can ultimately start this race whenever he wants. I'm going to almost guarantee that he's going to wait till he goes through the hairpin and put his foot down. And there he goes. Piotr Shabilski off to the races here at Laguna Seca, immediately putting a good gap between himself and Adrian Puebla in the AMG behind. Just about as clean a start as you could want for the pole sitter. Here comes Paul O'Malley into turn 1, having a look down the inside, and he has gotten through. Wyatt Johnson, though, in the Ferrari, the BWT car, is sort of looking as well, thinking, oh, maybe I could find myself up into the top 3. None doing quite so. The McLaren on the inside, Michael Hickman staying with Johnson, knowing Johnson goes a little bit wide, as does Paul O'Malley just behind, and that's shuffling the order just a little bit. Momentum is crucial, but already Piotr Chabilski is up, and away. 2 seconds thereabouts away from the field. This is absolutely perfect for him.
Chabilski's doing exactly what Chabilski wants to do. Paul O'Malley finally gets clear. Hickman also gets clear, and we'll have a little bit of a sigh of relief. Adrian Pueblo being swamped here as Wyatt Johnson trying to make their way through as everybody tackles the corkscrew for the first time. 59 feet drop from the top to the bottom of the corkscrew. An absolutely incredible thing to experience in a race car around there, and you really only get a sense of how much of a drop that is. 59 feet is absolutely incredible, and you're doing that in a race car. Finishing lap number 1, everybody filtering through. A couple of incidents in the back. Anderson and Eric Jacobs, I believe, have gone off right near the back of the grid, but just about everybody else has made it pretty much unscathed. Paul O'Malley was on it, wasn't he, Jack, on that start? Maybe got a little argy-bargy down into the Andretti hairpin, but no harm, no foul. Everybody kept it on the island, if only just.
Yeah, just about. Paul O'Malley spotting that a little bit, sort of nudging his nose in. Just I'd say the right amount for turn 1. A little bit of rubbing is racing after all, but really getting on it, spotting an opportunity to jump forward, immediately takes it with both hands. Adrian Pueblo, though, off the start, losing another position to Michael Hickman a few moments ago. I mean, granted, Hickman, Chabilski, and Paul O'Malley are probably, those are the 3 names that I'd be most scared of. They are absolutely rapid, and you can already see O'Malley under pressure from Michael Hickman. It seems that the Ford Mustang GT3 is the pick of the litter as far as the meta is concerned on iRacing, but Hickman prefers himself the mid-engine British machine, and it does him extremely well. A few local yellows further back in the field. I think drivers maybe getting a bit out of shape, but mostly holding it all together. I think the very back of the grid off to a pretty tricky start. Hickman nose to tail with the Mustang just ahead. And as a reminder, if anybody's already thinking about strategy, I know I am. These cars, 75%, a reminder, that is the maximum amount of fuel they can carry. So it isn't a mandatory pit stop, but it is a necessary pit stop. So did anybody fuel for half? Did anybody go all the way? What has everybody done to set up their race car? Only time will tell. A bit further back, the fight for 15th position between David Wiggins and Benjamin Gallant. 2 wide as they head uphill towards turn 6. One of the scariest corners on the circuit. I think maybe the scariest corner. A little bit of side to side, loses Wiggins a bit of momentum coming up the hill. Maybe a little bit mean. That was U.S. on U.S. violence, Jesse.
I don't want to bring national pride into question here, but do you notice that's only ever possible in America's Racing League? But it's gone wrong, and it's continuing to go wrong. A huge accident. Sam Graff involved. Heavy contact. Gets rear-ended. Wyatt Johnson, of course, involved. And Chris Andreasen escaping, I do believe. And just huge calamity all kicked off when Wyatt Johnson was off of the racetrack. Humongous crash, and probably among the worst I've seen in quite some time. 3 cars utterly destroyed.
That was unbelievable. You could see Johnson, he went wide coming down the hill out of the corkscrew. He's sort of inching slowly back onto the circuit, his front bumper on that exit curb. And I mean, that is a dangerous place to put your race car. Clearly, he's running up in the top 5. He wants to keep it there. He doesn't want to lose time, but here comes Sam Graff. I'm just going to say, really no fault of his own. He's coming down the hill. It's slightly blind. He's holding on to his race car. And, oh, look, there's a perpendicular Ferrari nose parked on the circuit and to get rear-ended as well. I haven't seen a cargo airborne in a little while, but you did get to see it here tonight, for better or for worse. But that's going to make a race a little bit longer. Fortunately, these drivers do have a fast repair available, so it's not going to be a 40-minute stop like some drivers are used to seeing in iRacing. They should be back up and running reasonably quickly. Jesse, I mean, not quick enough that they'd maybe be challenging for the race lead by the end of it, but fast enough that hopefully they'll be able to join the pack and maybe find themselves gaining a bit of spots towards the end of the race.
Well, and I like the fast repair in this situation. It's a Thursday night. We're having a little bit of fun, right? And nobody's race should be over immediately. And I think the penalty of being in an incident and then having to come down pit road anyway is enough of a penalty. You got to fix the car. Makes complete sense to me. And you don't benefit, nobody benefits from sitting in the pit lane doing repairs for 30 minutes. Quick repair is absolutely a great idea. And now they can continue on their race. And who knows, they may still be able to salvage something out of the evening. Piotr Shabilski doing their level best to not salvage, but flourish this evening in Monterey. 3 seconds to the good over Paul O'Malley, who continues to be heckled by Michael Hickman. Paige Doenbaugh now up into 4th place, your round 1 winner. Adrian Puebla down to 5th place, and look at this. This is going to get ugly, and they just about save it. That could have been very ugly indeed, but a little hip and shoulder check at the top of the corkscrew, and everyone gets away.
Just about. I think in the background, I believe that's Chris Anderson. He got out of the way a moment ago. It's a bit down on the sort of group. I'm wondering if he's carrying a bit of damage. That car looking a bit slow going up the hill, looking, well, backwards on the way back down. But well managed by Aaron Henschel and Willie Sellers. Not an easy thing to do, sorting out who should be where when you're coming up the hill, but they managed to do it. Benjamin Gallant finding himself in the gravel just a bit. I feel
in
like
a very weird place too.
I feel like not enough people talk about how narrow this track feels. You think, oh, it's fine, tons of runoff, it's a wide circuit. Not so. I mean, at the widest point, it's maybe 4 cars wide. That sounds like, I feel like, more than it is, but you make one mistake, you turn in a little bit late, you take in a bit too much speed, and most likely you're going to find yourself out in the gravel like Gallant just was.
Yeah, it's a one-groove racetrack. You can see the gravel that is kicked up from people running off in the corkscrew, and you'll certainly see that off of Turn 4 as well quite a bit, the gravel thrown everywhere. But this racetrack is basically a one-groove racetrack. What does that mean? Well, it simply means that there is a preferred groove, a groove that is decidedly the quickest, and any deviation from that is going to lose you time, it's going to lose you grip, and it's no good. So you essentially stick to that groove, and the groove is, of course, narrow by nature. There are some exceptions to that, and I will say the Andretti hairpin is one of those exceptions. There's 2 different lines. You could run the tight line through turn number 2 Andretti hairpin, or you can diamond off or V off the corner, and it will work as well. As I believe we just saw Scott Farrell in the background do their best initial drift sort of situation. That's no good for the tires, but it sure looked pretty drifting off of that corner. But there are a few corners where there is an alternate line that I would argue is probably just as quick, but for the most part, you really want to stick to that one groove. And of course, that is also the case in the corkscrew. Absolutely no going side by side through there. Don't even think about it, though I suspect some of these drivers
They're
doing
thinking
that
about it. It's hard not to. You're coming up the Gray Hall straight. You realize you have a bit of a slipstream. You're like, 2/10? I can make that up on the brakes. And then you step out, you hit the brake pedal, and you're like, I'm going over a mountain. This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea. Yeah. I made it. Or I'm in the wall. Either one. Tends to be a bit of a prayer. At the front of the field, though, Piotr Chabilski found himself briefly off circuit in the first sector. I noticed that gap drop immediately, and here we are, 3-way battle for the lead, and I think it's going to be Shabilsky dropping back just a little bit. I'm wondering perhaps if the driver got a bit of a slowdown penalty. He seemed fine to step out of the way just for a minute, but something happened in there to Shabilsky, and I do want to take a look to hit the replay machine to see where and why. Was it a bit of, oh, he didn't see the Mustang coming out of pit lane, and suddenly it appeared on the racetrack, so it wasn't a mistake necessarily, a bit of mismanagement, I think, from
Look at this heads-up driving by O'Malley, though.
Absolutely stellar, and immediately Hickman got into this fight. This is when we jumped back with him. It was exceptional work from the pair. Hopefully, though, there isn't, or if there is, a negligible amount of damage on Shabilsky's Mustang, because that was a hit. iRacing damage do not play. And
I'm curious, Jack, what your thoughts are. That was obviously an accident. I think we can both agree that was just an accident. But if you had to place blame, I don't think you could really blame the car exiting the pit lane. I think that was just a little unfortunate. You wouldn't expect a car coming out of pit lane that early, right? And you're probably not getting an indication that the car's there. But I mean, I don't think the car exiting pit lane could have done anything different.
I really don't think that that's on the fault of the Mustang. I mean, they're feeding onto the racing surface out of pit lane. It's not their job to necessarily pull over, even if they are a lap down. It's so difficult to make that call. I mean, I have a feeling that neither of them really knew that there was a car there. Maybe they glanced at the relatives. That's really the only thing that's going to tell them, unless they have an external spotter, because iRacing does not have any such helicorsa to really help you out in a situation like that. Well, maybe they do now. I know there was a huge UI update. I haven't played with it in the latest season, but that could have been included. But regardless, something maybe wasn't entirely switched on for Shabilsky, and now he's down in second, back in the fight. I'm going to be honest, Jesse. I don't mind these change of circumstances because this is excellent at the front.
Yeah, from one man's misery to our pleasure, we get treated to a three-way fight for the lead. And if you are Piotr Shabilsky, you've got to shake that off. It's just an incident. It's no one's fault. It's just one of those things. It's by definition, a racing incident. It's one of those deals, as they would have said back in the day, and it is what it is. You find yourself the meat in the sandwich between O'Malley and Hickman, and that is the fight. And I suspect it is a long way from over here with 47 minutes left to go. Long way to the finish and a long way to race this out. David Wiggins in the Corvette leads Craig Searcy and Robert Molman, and that fight in the middle of the pack. Couldn't be more in the middle of the pack.
It's just about fighting for all they can here. I mean, the middle pack for these AM drivers is sort of the upper level of their fight. I mean, top marks for AM class right now is P12, so they're only a couple of spots off the lead necessarily, so it's worth a whole lot more than it sort of looks on the timing tower. I do want to shout out, because I am paying attention to you all in the YouTube chat. I appreciate it, Jesse. They're saying very nice things about us in there.
Are they?
They are. They're saying the verbatim. Shout out to the casters. I'm at work at the moment and can't look at my phone consistently, but I'm listening and know exactly what's going on. So thank you guys. And like Corey said, they're goated for real. Really brings the series to life. That is far too nice.
You are so welcome. And thank you very much.
You are welcome. Thank you for being here. And Dan Shabilsky as well, willing on Piotr, wishing for a bit of shake and bake, which we could call what we saw earlier on shake and bake, but it was the wrong shake and possibly the wrong bake for Shabilsky, but it's working out well for Paul O'Malley. He sort of opened up the gap just a hair with Shabilsky and Hickman battling onwards. I'm thinking that Mustang might be damaged that Piotr's driving around, and perhaps a slightly long pit stop, maybe a repair coming in. Could be, Jesse, we see a big undercut swing. It would be brave, it would be bold, but it could be something. Go in early, get that car repaired, maybe fresh tires, full fuel, and just rip it till the wheels fall off for about 40 minutes. I would say is maybe an option. I mean, if you were Shabilsky, damage isn't bad. You're in a good position. Do you take, it is beginning of the season after all, there is a long way to go. Do you risk that big swing?
Yeah, I think if you're Piotr Shabilsky and you think that the damage to the car is hindering you in some way, I would tell them to obviously not make an additional stop, but as soon as you know that you can make it to the end of the race, come in immediately. There's no reason to mess around and continue to lose time. Use your fast repair, put the fuel in the car, change tires if you wish, and get back out there. And don't waste time. Don't sort of try to gut it out any more than you have to. Don't take the extra stop, though. I'd be doing the calculations in my head trying to figure out when is the absolute earliest I can come in, because we definitely saw that last lap. Shabilsky did go back off the racetrack again. Actually slowed Michael Hickman up. Paul O'Malley is driving away. That gap has now, it's about another 6/10 more than it was. So it's 1.6 seconds the gap now. As we ride on board David Wiggins, and something amiss there coming up to the corkscrew that time. Let's run down the top three in each category for you. Paul O'Malley leads it in pro and overall over Piotr Shabilsky and Michael Hickman. Paige Doenbaugh, our winner from round number 1, is in 4th, and we just saw Enri Di Pasquale move up into 5th place over Adrian Puebla. And in 7th place, the first of the Pro-Am runners, Ted Piper, has matriculated to the front of Pro-Am over Stefano Zanotti. And in 3rd place in that category and 10th overall is Daniel Kent. Bryce McClafferty leads in the AM class. They started in the pole position and they maintain that position over Benjamin Gallant in Pro-Am. I do apologize. It's actually Matthew Sosi who is 2nd in AM, and they've made incredible inroads. Nobody was anywhere near Bryce McClafferty in the AM class. I mentioned that in the grid walk, and Matthew Sosi is only about 3 seconds behind the leading AM driver. 3rd place in the AM category is Anthony Madonia in 15th place. That's the top 3 in each category.
And they're doing a good job. It's kind of tricky. I personally don't have a lot of experience with same class or same car but different class driving, so I haven't necessarily had to play the mental gymnastics of, okay, I've got a technically faster class, and I'm doing air quotes, car behind me. Is it worth fighting them to maybe hold position, or is it worth letting them go because I might lose time and other cars of my same class might catch you? But everybody is figuring that out. They're going to be figuring that out all season long. They're going to know, hey, this is probably somebody I should let through. This is somebody I should keep behind because we're about the same speed. And you know, it's very cut and dry what we're seeing on screen. This is class for class. This is Piper versus Zanotti. This is for lead in Pro-Am. So they don't have to think about anything at all. They just get to do the driving. And granted, Jesse, that is also allowed. You can't just do the driving and fight for position however you want. That is allowed. There are no rules regarding, you have to let the faster class car behind you. No, you don't. We're all fighting for the same piece of tarmac. Unless you're a lap down, you don't have to get out of their way. But it's always something I like to think about, sort of shape a way a driver takes on a race slightly differently than others. But it's, you know, it's worth a shot. Maybe if we see somebody step out of the way randomly, and we're like, would there be some strategy going on, some team play? I don't know, but we're sure going to see lots more of that all season long, and including tonight. 20 minutes into our hour-long race. It was Piotr Shabilsky who took the pole position, started on pole, ran into a car that was coming out of pit exit, and now finds himself down in 2nd. We also had our absolutely massive accident with Sam Graff and indeed, who was it? Wyatt Johnson. Wyatt Johnson, who found himself inching onto a circuit full of race cars, and bing, bang, pow, they are now it's in the back of the grid. But Jesse, can we talk about how good of a circuit Laguna Seca is, and how I think it may be on the cusp of criminally underrated? It's exceptional piece of racing tournament.
Yeah, I know a lot of drivers that don't really want to race here because it is so unforgiving. It's a racetrack that gives you a workout. And I said in the pre-race that it almost looks unassuming. How hard could an 11-turn road course that's not even 2.5 miles around be? Well, the answer is vary. The elevation change, the camber of the corners, the nature of the track itself is just unforgiving. It's a brutal circuit that works you. It works you out mentally and physically to race around here. I've asked drivers in the past, what would you rather do? A couple hours on the Nürburgring without a break, or a couple hours around Laguna Seca? And a lot of them said, I would absolutely take the Nürburgring, because at least there are parts of the Nürburgring where you get to relax for a minute. And I had never thought of it like that until several people subsequently said that. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is true. There are a couple of different times around the Nürburgring you get to just sort of, drive straight and kind of relax your muscles for a moment, but not here at Laguna Seca. You're up on the wheel. It also produces great racing. In IndyCar and IMSA alike, it creates brilliant finishes.
This
of course,
is
we have that old famous IMSA finish way back in the day, but Jack's talking about Piotr Shabilski into the pit lane with Michael Hickman in tow. Hickman got by Shabilski on that lap, but they come in nose to tail into the pit lane ever so early.
Absolutely. And we talked about big swing and doing something different. Good news, bad news for Shabilski. His immediate rival on track matched him exactly. So we'll have to see what it's going to look like once Paul O'Malley comes in. Of course, generally, as a leader of the race, you want to go as long and as hard as you can. And I think he's going to do just that. And already, traffic becoming a bit of a nightmare. I mean, it is California after all, so call it rush hour, because it looks a little bit like it. Everybody trying to not trip over each other, trying to make their way by. Who needs to go by who? Are they letting me through? Are they not? Where do I go? And making it look mostly easy at the front of the field, but I can only imagine it's a bit frantic further back in the field. The question is this going to start a bit of a reaction from drivers sort of that were running in the pro class or in the top 10 in general? They see that those two are going for an undercut. They might think, there might be some value to this. It might begin a little something, Jesse. But I think for the most part, everybody's filled their car as high as it will go and will run it until it's out of fuel. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think if you're Paul O'Malley, I think you're going to ride the horse that got you here. No pun intended. He is driving a Ford Mustang, of course. But I think that there's no reason to deviate. I think that his usual strategy here is going to apply, and that is exactly what you said, Jack. Go as long as you possibly can, and don't change your strategy even if other people do pit. A couple of front runners have come in, Piotr Shabilski and Michael Hickman, though I will say Shabilski has beat Hickman out of the pit lane by my calculation just about a second. So they flipped positions. Hickman was in front of Shabilski prior to coming into the pit lane. Shabilski beats them out, though. So go ahead and flip those positions around once, flip them around again, and they're the way they were prior to all of that anyway. Shabilski in front of Hickman by exactly a second. Man, I'm not used to actually being able to do math in my head, but there it is. So those are the two front runners that have come into the pit stop. I will say I have been monitoring the fight, or the building tension, between last week's winner Paige Doenbaugh and Anne-Marie DePasquale, who's back from missing round one with hardware issues. Anne-Marie had been running Paige down. Doenbaugh had actually been off the racetrack a few times looking out the window, but just now Anne-Marie is the one that found themselves off of the racing circuit and lost a ton of time just about 2 seconds they lost on their off-track excursion.
It's tricky. I think this race, it might come very well down to who makes the least mistakes. And you can say that about every race, but the mistakes here are a little bit different. It's stuff like this, working your way through traffic. It's how you manage your strategy. It's just generally keeping on the racing surface to a much more perfect degree, because it can all come unwound in half a second's time, even less than that. And getting everything right, I mean, you can control only what you can control, Jesse, and lap traffic, there are other cars with other human beings piloting them, I hope. I don't know if anybody's got if there's a robot driving around here, but not that that wouldn't be is that against the rules? Do we allow AI pilots in ARL? I don't know. I'm gonna say probably not, because the people that makes this stuff so much fun. Pit lane is getting pretty busy though, Jesse. Couple drivers in and around. It's gonna be, I think, a slow trickle as we get towards about 20 minutes left in this race. But Zanatti jumping in, maybe tired of sitting behind Ted Piper for as long as he was, and Piper's gonna have the same job as O'Malley, I think. Ride the horse that got him here, and it's no longer a pun, it's a fact, because they're all driving Mustangs, it seems like.
Yeah, Mustang has been the favorite here in America's Racing League for a little while, I would say. I don't know how much of that is the car being meta and how much of that's just a really, really rapid drivers picking the Mustang. I don't know, but one thing's for sure is that it has been at times a Mustang dominated series here on ARL Thursdays, and that sort of continues to be the case. It looks even worse right now as they occupy the top 6 spots, but that's only because the sequence of pit stops has several of the cars out of sequence. Adrian Puebla's been in, Zanatti has been in. Wyatt Johnson, of course, was involved in that incident. I'm actually surprised they're as high up as they are, considering the catastrophic damage suffered by that car. But most recently, Robert Moolman's been in, Wiggins been in as well. A couple of DNFs that have occurred. Just want to update you. Willie Sellers, Barry Cochran, and Sean Stewart appear to be out of the race. Something's happened additionally to the Sam Graff Porsche as they are towing back to the pit lane. Everybody else is continuing. Rodney Ramsey and Aaron Herschel have just come in and are exiting the pit lane. Stefano Zanatti on my scoring monitor has jumped Adrian Puebla in the pit lane. So go ahead and put Zanatti up a spot. And that doesn't matter because they're in 2 different classes, but that does matter for overall sort of position jockeying. That was reversed prior to coming in the pit lane. Jack, clearly some games being played with the fuel calculation and numbers.
I think so. Maybe drivers with the sort of addition, that was one of the big changes, one of the many changes this season from last, is from 55% up to 75. And what one of the big things that George Reynolds Jr., who is the admin and event manager of this championship, he told me, he was like, yeah, the idea is to open up further strategy swings, as ideally you can go longer. Either you start with a long stint or you end with one, or something in between. It sort of makes it a bit more different. And I think tonight is just a perfect encapsulation of what that's sort of meaning for everybody. Some drivers going long, some drivers I think short filling, maybe doing a bit of fuel saving. When you have a big tank, a big heavy car like that, a little bit of lift and coast, a little bit of extra fuel mileage might work out pretty well in your favor. And that could be what we're starting to see and what we're beginning to see. One of these days, I wish that they were driving LMGT3 cars so I could see what everybody's virtual energy tank was looking like, but not so lucky here tonight.
Nope, not privy to what their fuel tank and efficiency looks like. They only tell us by how much they take in the pit lane by virtue of sitting sedentary in the box. We were just looking at Ted Piper, who's the leading Pro-Am car, has been pretty much the entire way, but they have David Barkley behind them, and I was just wondering, David Barkley's a pro car. I was wondering how much you fight a car like that, knowing that that isn't your fight, but this fight here still going on as they've just about sorted it out, but one battle seems to be replaced by another as Matt Sosi continues to get swamped, just getting out of the way in the corkscrew, letting some of the Pro and Pro-Am cars through. Shabilsky, Hickman, and now Benjamin Gallant all through, not wanting to cause any sort of incident. And I think kind of if you are an AM car and you're sort of flirting with the top 10, Jack, not get out of the way, obviously, but sort of walking on eggshells a little bit, sort of minding your own inside the top 10, realizing that the running order is kind of mixed up right now with the pit stop cycle. And also, you don't want to do anything that would impact another person's race. But if you're as high up as Sosi is, P2 in your class after all, you don't want to do anything that's going to take you out of a potential excellent podium finish either.
Absolutely right. And it's part of that mindset that I think everybody's going to have to figure out. Things that they might have to learn about the drivers that are around them, know who's going to fight you, who's not, sort of figure out your best running plan. And the vast majority, it seems, of lower cars, especially, I mean, the choo-choo train that's chugging of Shabilsky and Hickman is just the perfect sort of guinea pig for what we're talking about, because every time they've come up onto the back of somebody, they've pretty much gone out and gotten out of the way. And we'll see if Bryce McClafferty's going to do it. And this is something that is helping Shabilsky and Hickman's run. This is when I was saying that it'd be a bold choice to do an undercut. Viewers might be wondering, hey, why? It's, you're just going in early, right? What's the big difference? Well, the big difference is you find yourself behind cars that haven't pit that you then have to overtake for position. They don't have to get out of your way. It's a risk. It seemed for the most part they are getting out of the pro driver's way, but a mistake for Shabilsky just about. I thought he was going to drop that car just a little bit of a half spin, but stuff like that slows you down, hurts your fight, and it all works in the favor of the drivers ahead of you. So I still don't know, Jesse. We won't know until the rest of the pro category starts pitting whether this strategy has paid off and will pay off. But it's a good tester. You want to figure this out early in the season. You want to know what you can and can't do. Fill out your playbook, and then really once the championship fight comes to you, and you need to know what you can and can't do. I think too wide through the corkscrew. We're going to see it time and time again. Hickman sort of cuts the corner just a little bit, but that's what it looks like. I was curious how it would be when two pro drivers that know that they're fighting or hoping that they'll be fighting for a championship want to go side by side through the absolutely fearsome corkscrew. And, well, I would count that as mostly successful because both cars are facing the exact correct direction.
Hotly contested lap, scary moments there going into the Andretti hairpin a lap ago. Piotr Shabilsky was able to get around the AM leader of Bryce McClafferty, but Michael Hickman had such a good run down to the inside of Andretti hairpin. He took them 3 wide. A little bit of contact ensued, and whenever Bryce McClafferty decidedly got out of the middle of that, Hickman had a look up into the corkscrew, took them 2 wide through there, and fortunately no additional contact, but it's very clear Michael Hickman is not interested in hanging around, wants to get back by Piotr Shabilsky and might have a little bit extra to get it done. A couple of attempts, nothing successful yet. Top 6 cars in front of them have yet to pit, including the leader Paul O'Malley, Paige Doenbaugh, Anne-Marie DePasquale, Ted Piper, the Pro-Am leader, David Barkley, and now Daniel Kent has pitted out of P2 in the Pro-Am category and out of 6th overall. I think the majority of the front runners are electing to stay on strategy A here and not modify it. And why would they? Their race has gone pretty much to plan for a lot of these front runners. Thought we were going to lead into a fight between Paige Doenbaugh and Anne-Marie DePasquale. That hasn't amassed. In fact, Anne-Marie has lost an additional second since I last spoke about that. They still run second and third, but they still have a pit stop to give.
It sort of seems like, I mean, you could call it a coincidence or not, but it kind of seems like each class of car sort of has their same strategy. It seems that a lot of the AM drivers are going for the undercut. A lot of the Pro-Am drivers are going for the old 50-50, where Philip, about halfway into the race, and all the Pro drivers are going for an overcut. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule, but that sort of seems like that's the majority pick here. So, I mean, they're all ultimately the same driver, with the same amount of information as each other, but maybe showing what the quickest think is the best idea, and maybe the ones who are a little bit off that pace thinks works for them. But also, it's worth saying that depending on where you are within the field, it can totally change what seems like and might sound like a really good idea. My question is, how much longer is the fuel going to last for the top 6? Because they've all just sort of been pounding around lap after lap after lap. 75% of a tank, of my mind, is about 45 minutes, maybe a little bit more. But I would anticipate, Jesse Lee, any minute now we'll see it. Maybe if I can send a mental message here, if I can get Paul O'Malley to go down pit lane, not quite. Maybe soon. Probably soon.
Well, I think Paul's going to go as long as they possibly can. I think he's demonstrated that in the races that we've called, that he's controlled. He's gone as long as humanly possible. And I think that's O'Malley's strategy. He's in the lead. The only reason that he would come in any sooner than that is that if he is able to ascertain where he will come out. What do I mean when I say that? Well, I'm saying that if he could figure out what his pit delta is going to be in his head and figure out where all the other cars are going to be, and he might take an advantageous pit stop where he comes out in clean air and he doesn't have to fight some of the other cars. But that is a lot of mental gymnastics, and I'm not sure a driver driving on their own will have the ability of that. Heck, Formula One struggles with that, and they have a team of strategists and engineers. But stranger things have certainly happened. Certainly Paul O'Malley's usual MO is just go until the fuel tank is completely dry. Coming down the corkscrew and rainy, and we'll see if he comes in this time. I wonder if he'll go one more. He's not really been under pressure. Nope, he is going to stay out. He didn't really juke to the right side of the racetrack immediately. I thought maybe he was coming down, so he's at least going to take one more lap. 22 minutes left. Where has the time gone? It's absolutely flown in this race as more cars have come down the pit lane. Benjamin Gallant and Javi Sanabria both pit out of the Pro-Am category and rejoin 13th and 14th overall, and I believe that puts them 4th and 5th in class as well, in front of Wyatt Johnson, who makes up the top 5 in Pro-Am.
It's just, I mean, it's a very busy race. Who would have guessed 32 cars on a pretty small circuit, not a lot of turns, 3 different classes would be busy, and it absolutely has been. It's been a question of who's doing what and where and why, and to some degrees, even how. Pace at the front has been absolutely blistering. The one thing that hasn't changed, I will say, buddies for life, Piotr Shabilski and Michael Hickman. It isn't just tonight, but I've seen this pair duke it out. Jesse, you've seen it as well. We've watched them duke it out lap after lap, hour after hour with each other, and it could be some sort of twist of fate that that Piotr wasn't able to drive out in front quite as long as he was, because I don't know, his good old friend in his McLaren was feeling a bit lonely. So that's the turn of fate. I'm honestly chomping at the bit to see where they're gonna come up with compared to the rest of their field in the top 5, because it's like, I certainly ahead of I think they're going to at least be fourth or third and fourth is going to be my guess. The question is, are they going to be ahead of Paige Dogenbaugh? Are they going to be close to Paul O'Malley? Because they had to have lost time fighting through the field. Absolutely. I mean, they're not doing clean laps, but at that same time, it could have been a question of, oh, was Paul O'Malley stuck behind lap traffic? We don't know, and I wish we did. And 20 minutes to go, we're still going to be waiting to find out. Do we need? I think we need a new award. Friends of the race. Who spends the most time around another? I think the two front runners in my mind: Piotr Jabilski, Michael Hickman, and Ted Piper and David Barkley. Those are my friends, buddies of the race.
Can I nominate you as buddies of the race? I feel like we spend the entire race together, right? So I mean,
it's true.
You know, oh, I made it sweet. You know what is sweet? Paige Dogenbaugh has 8 into Paul O'Malley's lead. I have been paying attention at nearly 2 seconds to the good. He is now Paige Dogenbaugh. The problem is that they're still 10 seconds behind Paul O'Malley, and still, of course, have a pit stop to give. Amory Di Pasquale has stopped the bleeding, so to speak. That gap's been hovering around 3 seconds for the past 10 or so minutes now. So after their off-track excursion and losing time, they have at least sort of righted the ship there a little bit. Ted Piper in 4th place overall leads Pro-Am still, and a few spots behind them in 8th is Bryce McClafferty, who continues to lead in AM, but is in the pit lane this time. The AM leader in the lane, to the attention of their team. I believe Jack Coffey is the only other AM driver who has yet to pit, as now I do believe the top 5 are the only 5 that have yet to pit. Paul O'Malley, Dogenbaugh, Di Pasquale, Piper, and Barkley, the cars that need to pit at some point. Are you surprised that, of course, one of the other changes this season in ARL, more fuel tank space, but even still, less than 18 minutes left to go, and we've got 5 cars that have still not come in. Are you surprised by that at all?
Absolutely. I honestly would have expected they would have been in sometime in the last 5 minutes. I think what's happening is that I think being behind on a mixed field racetrack, everybody sort of tripping over each other, you're naturally going a bit slower than you would be if you're on an empty bit of circuit. Therefore, you're using a little bit less fuel. Therefore, your mileage is theoretically a bit better. There could be a mixture of a bit of LICO on the side, but still, I mean, it's not like you're spending half the time off throttle. You're still pounding around, putting in quick laps, and getting your job done. But I'm impressed. I'm surprised. It could just be as trivial as these drivers sort of like to make us think sometimes. They sure do make things look easy. I don't know if that's the case tonight, and still going around, I mean, I'd have to think surely they're in this lap. At this point, I'm just thinking that maybe they found a mysterious way. They're piping in extra fuel, I don't know, from the ground as they're driving at this point, because it just seems like they're never actually gonna stop.
Yeah, it's a tough task, and it's something that we take for granted a lot. And if you're watching these pictures at home, it's easy to take for granted that these are human beings driving these cars around Laguna Seca, and it is not easy to do that. It's taking every bit of concentration just to get around the racetrack, and then on top of that, you're asking them to do math, mental gymnastics, as I call it, while they race a tough racetrack, and in some cases, like Shabilsky and Hickman, while they're sort of chained together, racing each other. And add that all together, it is incredible that they're still doing 1 minute 20, 1 minute 21 second laps around here and maintaining pace and working out strategy. It is incredible. It's more than physical, it's more than mental, it's everything all at once. Jack Coffey has come into the pit lane, and that completes the pit stop cycle for the AM class. That moves Bryce McClafferty back to the lead in AM. David Wiggins second, Matt Sosi third. Your top three in AM. Scott Farrell is fourth, and now Jack Coffey after the pit stop is fifth in AM. Paul O'Malley has brought the leading #1 Ford Mustang into pit lane and has brought Paige Doenbaugh, Anne-Marie DePasquale, and Ted Piper in. I don't believe that has brought David Barkley in. Nope, they're still out on the racetrack as
How's
they
he doing it?
thunder down the pit straight. How's he doing that? Is that an EcoBoost?
It must be. They must have put a 4-banger in this thing instead of the 5.2-liter V8 motor that usually drives it around. This thing's unbelievable. Is it a diesel? I mean, what has he been doing there? Clearly, it's running.
Ford wouldn't do that, right? Ford.
They made it. They made an electric crossover and called it a Mustang. I don't know what to believe anymore. Not that the Mach-E's a bad car, but it's not a Mustang.
David Barkley, the only car in the field to not pit. He's currently P2 in the pro class, but has a pit stop to serve at some point. Surely he can't make it the entire distance on 75% tank. Top of the corkscrew, one of the Ferraris has gone off, and I believe that's Aaron Henschel, sorry, in the 777. And it is, as they have pulled off of the circuit and remain sedentary, but they are well off of the racing line. Paul O'Malley, no problems in and out of the pit lane. David Barkley in pit lane now. That will complete the cycle. Piotr Shabilski is going to filter through to second. Michael Hickman is going to filter off to third. And those two cars, separated by a third of a second, are going to continue to contest P2 for the final 13 minutes of tonight's race.
Finally, I can breathe. I can sleep happy because I know the answer to my question of did the undercut work. I'm gonna say emphatically it did not. It didn't bring them any closer to Paul O'Malley. It actually dragged them a bit further away. But ultimately, they didn't lose anything from this endeavor because they're still ahead of Paige Doenbaugh, who's now in fourth. So they played around, they played the game, they pulled out the strat book and said, hey, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this together, I suppose, because they did. And they've still kept going around. At this point, though, it seemed like, well, actually, it didn't really seem like they've been working together through the field. It kind of seems like Hickman's been nipping at the heels and trying to make moves as best he can. But now it's, hey, pit cycle's down. We know exactly where we are right now. Gloves are off. Fight is on. 12 minutes to go is what I'd imagine is inside of their heads, because I don't foresee a 7-second gap in about, I don't know, 5 laps, maybe 6 laps to be closed. I think it's just going to be who's going to be second, Piotr Shabilski or Michael Hickman.
After the sequence of pit stops, it's Paul O'Malley out in front of Shabilski and Hickman, the top three in Pro. In Pro-Am, it's Ted Piper over Stefano Zanotti. Daniel Kent, the top three in Pro-Am. And in Am, it is Bryce McClafferty continuing to lead. David Wiggins and this driver, Matthew Sosi. And having, I would say, almost a quiet day. That might be a little nondescript for Matt Sosi. He may disagree. He's got Scott Farrell right behind him, and they will contest third in the AM class. Paige Doenbaugh is fourth overall and in Pro. Anne-Marie DePasquale one less, fifth in both categories. David Barkley came out and sits in sixth place, just in front of Ted Piper. Piotr Shabilski has just lost P2 to Michael Hickman.
Somehow, some way, I was with him all the way, but as soon as we look away, something goes wrong. A little mistake coming from Shabilski, and given where they were on circuit, my guess would be either a mistake coming out of turn 5 or one coming out of turn 6 and maybe lost the run up the Rahal straight, did Shabilski. But I mean, as what I was talking about, gloves are off. They're not going to play friendly anymore as long as they don't fight hard enough to bring Doenbaugh into the picture. 97 car, the 9 car can fight all night long, and as good buddies they are, or as good buddies they seem to be, it appears that they are absolutely going to go for it. After all said and done, Ted Piper still leading Pro-Am class, still making it work, and still finding himself up and enjoying a little bit of fight with Adrian Puebla. Not for position, but for bragging rights. And Jesse Lee, as a sim racer yourself, as an enjoyer of all things petrol, be it real or virtual, I mean, I'd do it. I'd go for this fight. I'd be like, well, got nothing else to do, and absolutely give it a quick rush.
Well, if I'm the driver, I'm going to fight Adrian Puebla, even though they're not in my class, and it doesn't matter. If I am Ted Piper's engineer or crew chief, I'm saying, are you absolutely insane? Have you lost your mind? Don't fight him. If he makes a lunge or a dive, just get out of the way and usher him through. Roll out the red carpet if you have to. Don't get involved in a fight that isn't yours. But as a racing driver, I 100% am going to race him, because that's the fight. And you get those blinders on in motorsport, and all you think about is the fight that you're thrust upon you, and that's what's happening right here. A Pro-Am and a Pro car fighting each other, not even for a top 5 spot, doesn't matter. This is a fight for position for overall. It doesn't matter for any other reason. And here comes Adrian Puebla, and I think Ted Piper just did the most intelligent thing a racing driver could ever do. Didn't fight him into the Andretti hairpin, allowed Adrian Puebla through. Piper slots immediately right back in. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Interestingly, Paige Dogenbaugh, she went down pit lane that last lap. It seemed like she actually served a drive-through penalty because she didn't get any service. If she did, that number next to her name would say whatever lap we're currently on, which I believe is lap 35 or lap 36.
And Jack Coffey's DNF'd.
He has indeed. So I do have incidents for both of those possibly. I'm going to start with Paige Dogenbaugh because I'm curious what happened. I noticed that Anne-Marie De Pasquale got through. That was briefly a Ferrari without a rear wing that we just saw. So this was just her driving through pit lane then. Interesting why the computer
looks like a drive-through to me.
I'm gonna guess that's what it was thinking. Maybe a clearing of a black flag, which would be the equivalent drive-through penalty, is why it's on my screen. So must have been too many incident points for Paige Dogenbaugh, and fortunately that could be way worse than it is, only losing a single position to Anne-Marie De Pasquale, and I'm attempting to. There it is. Jack Coffey. Why perhaps he went by. That's Piotr Shabilski and Michael Hickman coming through. Jack Coffey is, well, pulling over to the side of the road and electing that that is going to be the end of their race. Jesse Lee begs the question, why? I think perhaps something may have needed attention elsewhere, and Coffey had to hop up, get out of the rig, park the car, send it back to pit lane, and get to it. But a great race from him up to that point, so a bit of a shame to see it end up like that.
Yeah, it certainly had all the hallmarks of a voluntary retirement, something in the real world needing their attention. Final 6 minutes of the race. Paul O'Malley has led every step of the way, but interestingly enough, doesn't have the quickest lap of the race. Paul O'Malley's quickest lap was a 20.7. The quickest of the entire race is actually Piotr Shabilski in third, running a 20.69, so ever so slightly quicker there. Michael Hickman, P2 overall. Anne-Marie De Pasquale, as Jack mentioned, up to fourth. Paige Dogenbaugh in fifth after the drive-through penalty, as it would seem. Adrian Puebla in sixth. Of course, you got Ted Piper in the lead in the Pro-Am category. Has just about a 5-second lead over his nearest rival in his category, Stefano Zanatti, who is actually behind him now. It's been clean sailing for a lot of the pole sitters in all the classes. I think Paul O'Malley's done the maximum they could do today, Ted Piper, and you can say the same for Bryce McClafferty. It's been pretty clean, barring the one massive incident we saw exiting the Andretti hairpin. It has been a pretty clean race, pretty much exactly what you would expect from ARL.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, little things here and there, bumps, scrapes, a bit of, half spins, but outside of the one big sort of crash we saw, it was nothing that was a good, that's just bad driving hallmark. Nothing crazy like that.
You don't get a lot of bad driving here.
Really not.
Do you really?
And even the drivers who admittedly bit off the pace, making lots of mistakes. I mean, we've seen cars backwards. We've seen things with no rear wing, but they get well out of the way. If they don't know what's going on and they feel like they're maybe in a bit of a bad position, they step off the racetrack. They're like, honestly, it's just safest if I do it this way. And that's I feel like that's such an uncommon thing. A lot of time, and I don't know, Jesse, we've seen this in recent weeks, is drivers that just sort of dawdle a bit on the racetrack and don't take into account other races that are going on and are just sort of like, well, I'm here, I'm just gonna, I don't know, drive into this guy because I feel like it, or at least that's how it looks from us. But none of that here, never such a thing. And week after week, month after month at this point, I am continually impressed.
Well, I want to give a special shout out based on that to a driver all the way down in 27th place, Chris Anderson, who I would say has had a pretty rough race, but I have noticed them doing exactly what you were talking about, making sure that they are not in the way and letting their performance impact other people's performances, and they've done it the right way, in my opinion. Also, honorable mention to the 777 of Aaron Hinchell, who has had I would call it a frustrating evening. I'm sure they would agree, but they've also conducted themselves in a safe manner as well. And let it not be said, or let it not be said that it's not said, that we appreciate smart driving as well as fast driving. O'Malley still leading Hickman. That gap is coming down, by the way. Less than 6 seconds first to second, but with 2.5 minutes left, it is a bridge too far. We watch Scott Farrell here try to make a move on Matthew Sosi, and using the outer extremes of the final turn will lose him time and potentially the opportunity at 14th place and the final step on the AM podium.
It's tricky on that. You misjudge just a little bit. You're dealing with another car on track. It's the mistake we've all made, and I've probably spent far too much time in every single, well, it's not really a gravel pit at Laguna Seca. It's more a sand pit off the immediate racetrack. I mean, you can see there at the exit of turn 4, that is gravel. Most of it's just sand. I've played in just about every patch of sand that this racetrack has to offer. I'm not proud to admit it, but I'm matter of fact that if there's a wall, I've been there. If there's a bit of sand, I've been there. A bit of gravel, I've been there. Every single painted line at Paul Ricard, I've driven over it on complete accident. So I know that's the one thing I know I'm good at in racing, is crashing. But it's something we've all done. It's something we all can do. Late race, a little bit of fatigue going on, worn tires, cars as light as it's going to be. It's sort of as skatey. Then it feels different than what you were driving earlier on, so it's a little bit tricky. I have to say, we saw the supposed, and I can almost guarantee the drive-through penalty from Paige Dogenbaugh. I'm surprised we haven't seen any more, or at least any that have gone unnoticed. Because most corners, all those local yellow flags you see that flash on screen and off, that's somebody driving off the circuit. And that, in iRacing's way of doing penalties, is an X. I do not know what the allocation of X's are. I'm going to assume it's 17, which is the standard. So I would guess we'd see a couple more, Jesse Lee, but I guess they're working within their limits. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it 16 times and not 17.
Yes, indeed. Stefano Zanatti and David Barkley fighting each other for 8th place, 2 different classes. Jack, you want to end the night with a Jesse Lee fun fact? Yes, no?
Yes, please.
So you mentioned the racetrack as we focus on Paul O'Malley. I'll make this quick. You said that it's sandy, but it really is dry brown grass. I promise. Every sim makes it look like it isn't, but it is. When Gran Turismo scanned or did reference photos for this track back in the day, they made it green. Why? Because when they were here, it was green because it's spring and that is the rainy season in this area of the world. The track was green, but it's brown today, but it looks like victory for Paul O'Malley. Back in the winner's circle again. Michael Hickman comes across P2. Piotr Shabilski down the pit lane and loses third. Anne-Marie Di Pasquale comes across the line. What an upset into P3. Something happened to Shabilski. Was it another penalty?
I think it was a drive-through penalty. I was just talking about it. Why haven't we seen more? Final lap, final corner. Piotr Shabilski ends up having to go down pit lane and loses his spot on the podium. Adrian Puebla comes across the line in 7th. Ted Piper, victory in Pro-Am Adrian Puebla, 6th. Ted Piper, 7th. Zanotti's going to come through just behind, holding off David Barkley for sheer bragging rights alone. Daniel Kent, your top 10, but man, how unfortunate of a circumstance is one where you have to find yourself leading a drive-through and losing it by, I wouldn't even say it was by very much. I mean, on the timing tower, it shows it to be a bit greater than it is, but unbelievable final seconds of the race. Last bit of drama for the end of our day, and what a shame. Piotr Shabilski, great race. Lots of unfortunate circumstances. Things just not quite going his way.
Bryce McClafferty wins it in the AM class over David Wiggins. Scott Farrell will complete the top 3 for AM, but it's victory for Paul O'Malley, who's going to celebrate by doing donuts near the start finish line. And how sweet it is for the #1 Ford Mustang. And what a race it was, complete start to finish, exactly what we expect from the veteran driver.
Absolutely. Another clinical race, not quite having the start to his season that he was hoping last week, but back to his winning ways. Paul O'Malley is just going to, well, he doesn't need the engine anymore, so at this point, let's rev the nuts off of it. Let's basically, I mean, race cars can do that. They can do donuts fairly comfortably, but that will bring an end to the proceedings. I will say, names have dropped off of our tower, so this isn't quite correct in the full finishing order, but the things I can say for sure, O'Malley takes victory in Pro, Ted Piper takes victory in Pro-Am, and Bryce McClafferty is the driver who takes it in the AM class. That was about the quickest, the shortest hour I feel like I've experienced in a while. Actually, sorry, I misspoke. It's David Wiggins who took victory in the AM class. My apologies. That's one of our names that are missing, but I did write it down.
Are you sure?
I think
It
so.
was Bryce McClafferty.
It was Bryce McClafferty.
Who won in the AM class. Actually got
I
a
was
top
right the
10
first
out of the day.
time.
Did Bryce McClafferty. Now you starting to sound like me. Jack, we spend too much time together. One thing I do know is that you're down with the overall winner, Paul O'Malley.
Absolutely, Paul. It feels like it's been too long since we've had you in here. It feels like a regular specialty that we get to speak to you, but no, it was an absolutely stellar drive from you, my friend, and not done easy. A little bit of shake and bake in the first couple of corners, a little bit of right place, right time for you, heads up driving, and well, once you got to the front of the pack, you didn't really let go. So talk me through your race tonight.
Oh, it's good to be back. No lightning storm, no act of God was going to mess with my race tonight. So very happy that everything just went together my way.
And it's just a clinical affair from you, and it's one we've sort of gotten entirely used to seeing. It's difficult to talk about a championship when we're only 2 rounds into a 10-round season, but I mean, how you feeling? You got victory last time. It seems like the momentum might be in your favor. I mean, in a couple months' time, you thinking you'll be holding up a second trophy, or is it just too early to call?
Definitely too early to call. There's going to be a lot of races that are going to have to go my way. It's good that we get a drop week this season. That's really going to help things, but I've got a vacation coming up, so I've already used that one up. I don't have my free race to give away like some of the other guys do, so I'm going to have to really keep it together for the next 8 weeks. And we've got a lot of really good competition up front with some of the new people, Adrian and Paige joining in. We've really got a stout pro field, so it's going to be one for the ages.
Oh, I absolutely hope so. Such a fantastic calendar. I was speaking with Jesse about the couple of rounds we have upcoming. Super exciting circuits. Is there one track on the calendar that speaks to you the most, or maybe the one you're most excited for? Maybe Naval Base Coronado, the brand new one, or is there something more traditional that really speaks to you?
New tracks are fun, but I've got a soft spot for Road Atlanta. So, long story short, back in the Forza Motorsport days, they used to have like a endurance single player, and Road Atlanta was the first one of those that I was able to do without having to use like rewind features or anything. So, I'm always really proud of that and love going to that track. So, anytime I see that on the calendar, that's the one I'm looking forward to.
Well, that's a good answer in my mind. That's an absolutely stellar one. That'll be one that'll be coming up in a few weeks. Paul, congratulations on your victory here tonight. Before you go, anybody you want to thank? Anybody you want to shout out?
Quick shout out to the league for getting this organized. It's great to see 31 cars out here. I love seeing the growth. I love seeing that we've got so much competition throughout the field. It's good to see this place growing. Happy that I was able to be here early on and looking forward to being a longtime member.
Well, we appreciate you being here week after week, and maybe we'll speak to you again shortly. But regardless, congrats one final time, and thank you so much for being here. Jesse Lee, down with Mr. Piper. I don't know if well, I guess I wasn't here last week. I don't know if you're a bad luck charm, but he spent the race with us last time, didn't go 100% well, didn't spend the race with us this time, and he's now in victory lane. I'm just saying.
Well, well, I am down here with Ted Piper. It was because he didn't have to listen to us this week, is what it was. Ted, that was what the doctor ordered. That was more like it. An excellent race, you have to say.
Yeah, that went more my way this time. Out qualified the Zanatti, and that helps a lot to not be behind, Zanatti because we're just so matched in pace. So it's nicer for me to slow him down for the first half than it is for him to slow me down. And then he tried to undercut me, and then I was like, well, screw that. I'm going to go all the way to the end. Like, so I ran my fuel all the way until I could not do another lap. So I was made the car light to get the lap times down, and I just focused that. But as soon as he went into the pits, I focused on just lap time, lap time, lap time, every lap. And then what I came out of the pits ahead of him by, I don't know, 8 seconds, something like that, 5, 8 seconds, and then a car in between us as well. So yeah, went my way.
You spent the vast majority of the race racing cars that weren't in your class. I'm just curious, what's your approach with that? Do you do that extra cautiously, or do you race them regardless of their classification?
You're talking about me and Adrian at the end, uh, and uh, you know, I was just having fun because the relatives. I didn't have anybody really putting pressure on me behind me. We didn't have anybody to catch up to ahead of us. So I mean, I was not racing him hard. I let him, take the pass, but then he just was slower out of the corkscrew. So I was like, oh, I just take it and I was just having fun with him, just racing. I wasn't trying to block him or anything. If he took a dive on the next lap or two later, he took another dive into corner one, and I just let him have the line, and he made the pass stick. But then right after that, I noticed that he was 2 seconds from Page, and I was like, "Oops! Oh, sorry. Probably could have just let him by, and he might have had Page at the end." So I apologize to Adrian for racing you there a little bit, but I was just trying to have some fun. I'd just been lapping the whole middle part of the race, so.
Well, we certainly enjoyed the race, the back and forth there. Ted, anyone you want to shout out?
I am just gonna have to say the league, George, Sean, especially, all the admins. It's this iRacing thing's taken off. Hopefully, we can continue to build upon it and stuff like that. And shout out to Wyatt for spinning so that I could inherit the lead early on. So yeah, it's going to be a close one coming down to the end, I think in points possibly, but I have some races I might have to miss too, just like Paul. So summertime, work.
Absolutely. Ted Piper, though, back in familiar territory on the top step of the podium. Congratulations.
Hey, thank you.
Jack, a couple of happy winners and just what the doctor ordered after last round. We'll see if they can keep it up.
Absolutely, Jesse. And I will say apologies to the viewers. I think some post-race penalties rolled in at the end of that race, which is I got a bit confused, and the timing tower was absolutely correct. And I will just go ahead and read off the official, unofficial results at the end of the race tonight before we go. Paul O'Malley did take victory. We know that for a fact. Michael Hickman finished in second. Anne-Marie De Pasquale from the happenstance getting up into third. Paige Jogenbaugh finished fourth, Adrian Puebla fifth, Ted Piper sixth, and winner in Pro-Am. Stefano Zanotti seventh, David Barkley in eighth, Daniel Kent ninth, Bryce McClafferty top 10 for him, and winner in Am. Apologies again for getting that incorrect, but correct the first time. Piotr Shabilski 11th after his drive-through and I believe subsequent time penalty. Benjamin Gallant, 12th. David Wiggins, 13th. Scott Farrell, 14th. Wyatt Johnson, 15th. Robert Mullman, 16th. Matthew Sosi, 17th. Anthony Bedonia, 18th. Craig Cersei in 19th. Javi Sanabria in the 20th position. Rodney Ramsey, 21st. Rigo Kempis, 22nd. Eric Jacobs, 23rd. Devin Strauch, 24th. Cody May, 25th. Chris Anderson in 26th. Jack Coffey is our final retirement in 27th. Aaron Henschel retired as well, 28th. Sam Graff, 29th. Willie Sellers, 30th. And 31st is to Barry Cochran, and 32nd to Mr. Sean Stewart. Jesse Lee, absolutely heck of a race tonight. I'm looking forward to this season continuing on. I will say to anybody who's wondering, I will not be here again next week. Hopefully, we'll be able to sort out a broadcast team to bring you all the iRacing Thursday GT3 goodness in that stead. But before we go, Jesse, I mean, any thoughts, any wisdoms from your end?
Just another great night at America's Racing League here on iRacing Thursdays. It was a fantastic race. We got to see a little bit of it all. Some strategy, some accident, of course, and some excellent racing, some back and forth mixed with strategy. It was exactly as advertised. It was what we expected. And at the end, I think we got three deserving winners, and they all needed those wins as well. It's going to make the championship quite interesting down the stretch.
Absolutely. Plenty more to go. Round 2 of 10. Lots of great circuits coming up. Some personal favorites of mine in the next couple of weeks, and a stellar championship to go along with all of that action. If you're interested in joining us in any form, americasracingleague.com, it will take you to all the information you could possibly need. If there's a sim you want to drive, if there's a day you want to drive it, hopefully, chances are, there will be an option for you at ARL. Thank you to all of our wonderful partners that keeps the lights on here. Thank you to my co-presenter, Mr. Jesse Lee. Thank you to all the drivers, of course. We'd be nowhere without any of them. And thank you so much to all the viewers. Feel free, like, subscribe, click the bell, all that good stuff on the stream so you don't miss any more from us. It will just be Thursday streams for now. Le Mans Ultimate, slight hiatus on when the next event will start up instead. It might be Fridays, it might be Sundays. Who knows? I don't, because I haven't decided yet. But plenty of things to look forward to here and there. Everybody, have a wonderful night. Have a safe rest of your week. It's close enough to the weekend for me to say enjoy yourselves. From all of us here at America's Racing League, have a wonderful night, and we look forward to seeing you all soon.